All right, good evening, students. It is Mr. Rich, and tonight is our math Q&A. But what I'm going to do tonight, since I don't have any questions that have come in, is the special topic that I had for today was to take a look at whether the ACT can, rephrase it this way, that could Desmos really help you on the ACT math section? It is true that on the ACT for the next test coming up in February, and this is probably true for the December ACT as well, that the Desmos graphing calculator will be available for those students who are taking the digital version of the test. And but if you're taking the paper version, you will not have Desmos. Now, my initial assessment of that is that the Desmos graphing calculator is not really going to help you as much on the ACT as it would on the SAT. But it still does bring up a lot of questions in my mind that I don't have answers to, such as if you take the digital SAT, I would imagine that your scaling as compared to other students is going to be different, and you're not going to be compared to those students who are taking the paper version, right? Because it's going to be two separate populations, those who do not have Desmos using their own calculator on a paper version. Then you've got this other set of students who are taking the digital version of it, but do have access to the Desmos graphing calculator. So I have to imagine that the scales on both of those tests would be different, and they would be different populations. So I don't know how it's all going to work out. I honestly don't. But the purpose of tonight, though, was not the Desmos. I just realized that what we're doing tonight is that's next Sunday, is taking a look at Desmos and the ACT math. Tonight, what we're looking at is, could Chat GPT help you on the ACT or SAT math prep as you are getting ready? All right. So I have a few questions that I pulled from the ACT that we're going to take a look at to see, could we use Chat GPT to help get the solution to that? So I'm going to share my screen here in just a second, and we're going to pull up Chat GPT, and we're going to copy and paste some ACT test questions from their practice tests to see what happens when we ask Chat GPT for the answer. So stand by while I do this. Now, while I'm doing this, if you are watching, if you do have a question, you can submit it to me at askmrrich@gmail.com. And then when I'm done trying out Chat GPT with some ACT questions, I will take your math questions. And let's get Chat GPT pulled up so that I can share my screen with you all. See if that can happen here pretty quick. Okay, let's get rid of that. All right. So what we want to do here, let's move that over here. And we'll bring this guy over here. There's Chat GPT. All right, almost got it ready to go here, so hang tight. I'm going to go to my Mr. Rich Math Coach. There we go. So going to share my screen. Let's give that a try. All right, there you go. So what you're looking at now is Chat GPT. I have a chatbot that I created sometime last year, where I was giving this link to students and said, hey, if you're trying to get help on a math problem, use this, copy and paste your question into this, and then we can see if it's going to work. But let me pull up the first question that we want to take a look at. All right, so the first question, I think what we'll do is we'll pull this up as a practice test first. Before I paste it in there, I want to show you the question, and we'll work it together. Maybe that'd be the best thing to do. And let's see if we can get that to work here. See if I have that. Okay, so I'm going to capture this, and then let's bring it over. Okay, so here is the question that I'm ultimately going to be pasting into the Chat GPT. So this shows, this comes from, I think, practice test number 3, if I'm not mistaken, but this says, which of the following is equivalent to 5 factorial times x minus 1 factorial divided by 3 factorial x factorial? Now, a lot of students who haven't seen a question like this are really not sure how to do this. So let's see if we can figure this out. Well, we know that factorial means to take that starting value that's next to the exclamation and multiply by all of the integers back to 1. So it would look like that for the 5 factorial. Now, x minus 1 factorial means that I would start at x minus 1, and then I would multiply by 1 less than x minus 1. So if you take 1 away from x minus 1, that gives you x minus 2. And take 1 away, that gives you x minus 3. And you would keep going by taking 1 away to get the next factor in this sequence here. Then what we'll do on the bottom is we'll say that 3 factorial is 3 times 2 times 1. X factorial means that you would start at a factor of x, take 1 away from that, take 1 away from that, and then you establish that pattern and you would keep going. Now, we don't know how far to go because we don't really know what x is, right? That's a variable, but we're just establishing what the pattern is. And again, why did I know to do x minus 1, x minus 2? Notice 5 factorial means start at 5 and then go 1 less than 5, which is 4, and then go 1 less than that and 1 less than that. That's exactly what we're doing here, starting at x minus 1 and going 1 less. Now, hopefully what you see here is between top and bottom, all of these here, x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3, they are going to get divided out by the x minus 2, x minus 3 right here. And then the 3, 2, 1 that's down here, which is 6, that's going to get divided out by the 3, 2, 1, 6 that's up in the top. So what do I have left that did not get divided out between the top and the bottom? Well, we have 5 times 4, 20, and I have one singular x down here, and so A is the answer. So the question is, what will Chat GPT do when we paste that in? So I'm going to paste that in, except I don't want to get all my work in there. So let's erase that, because what happened is it kept all of my annotations. I think what I'll do is I'll just do a new screen grab. There we go. All right, so I have just done a screen grab of that problem, and I'm going to paste it into Chat GPT. Okay, it has uploaded it, and I am now submitting it. And then we're going to watch and see if it does its magic. Okay, now I've trained this chatbot to not just spit out the answer and all of the work. I have trained it. It's supposed to show you some of the steps and then interact with you and ask you the question. So it says, interestingly, I did not tell it was ACT. It says, I see an ACT style factorial simplification problem. Nice. So somehow it recognized that that's an ACT problem. Interesting. It did do a proper interpretation of our graphical image that I pasted in. And then it says, step 1, think about factorial relationships. So it's asking us to think about what x factorial means. It means the x times the next one, x minus 1 factorial. And then it says, so if we rewrite the denominator using that idea, what do you think happens to the x minus 1 factorial in the numerator? Okay, try answering that before reading on. Okay, it looks like it spit the whole thing out here in one shot. So once you write x factorial, you should notice a factorial cancellation happening. That's a classic ACT move. Always look for what cancels. Okay, after canceling, you should be left with some numbers from the 5 factorial and 3 factorial and a single x in the denominator. All right, now if I was totally clueless on how to work this problem, I might be a little frustrated because I don't really see the example of what he's talking about. Okay. And so I'm going to ask it, can you give me more detail? More information on what the numerator, I'll just say the top and bottom, would look like after applying the factorials. Let's see how it responds. Okay, so, all right, so there's the original expression. It says, okay, there we go. So it did the 5 factorial and the 3 factorial. Then, oh, so notice what it did here. Very interesting. It did just rewrite the x factorial in the bottom as x times x minus 1 factorial, and that left the x minus 1 factorial there so that those would divide out right there. Right. So the difference in what I was doing is I was kind of rewriting this out as x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3, et cetera, et cetera. And then this one was x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3, et cetera, et cetera. And those were what canceled out. But what it's doing here is very valid. Those would cancel out or divide out. And then the 3, 2, 1 and 3, 2, 1 divide out, leaving you 20 over x. Okay. So what's impressive about this, I don't know if this impresses you, but couple of things do of Chat GPT here is that it did properly interpret my original graphic image. That's just a picture that I gave it. It interpreted it correctly, and it did arrive at the totally right answer, which is pretty surprising. And it did show us the steps. Now, I'm going to give it another question here. My teacher showed me that we would keep expanding each factorial and establish the pattern. Is this valid? I'm basically saying, is my teacher telling me the truth? And it says, yes, that method is absolutely valid. And honestly, it's a very good way to understand what's happening. Your teacher is teaching you to see the pattern, not just memorize a trick. Yeah, so then it says, this is what your teacher meant. X minus 1 is this, showing you that pattern right there. And there's the numerator that I had showed you. And then the bottom, the x factorial was x, x minus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3, ... Okay, like that. So there you go. So it did understand what I meant, and it did show that expanded version that I showed you. All right, excellent. Let's try one more. And I have not tried these before, right? These are all new ones that I haven't even tried to paste. So here's the one. I'm going to show it to you first, and then we will paste it in. And let me get back and see if any questions have come in here. All right. Okay, so here is the next one that I wanted to show you. Now, if you are here live, you can send me math questions at askmrrich@gmail.com. I think I do have a banner here. There you go. So don't text me, but you can definitely send me an email there. Yeah, that's not the one that I want to give you. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, that's it. Askmrrich@gmail.com. That's where my questions come in. All right. Let me show you the next one that I'm going to try and paste in here and test Chat GPT and see if it does a good job. Again, it's an ACT question. I was pretty impressed that it knew that the last one was an ACT, but this says, one morning at a coffee shop, each customer ordered either decaf or regular, and each ordered it either with milk or without milk. The number of customers who ordered each type of coffee with or without milk is listed in the table. So this is what we call a two-way table. We have taken 36 individuals and we've broken them apart by two categorical variables. Do you drink decaf or regular was one variable. The other one is, do you use milk or not use milk? And then we broke out all 36 people according to those four different categories that you see right here. All right, let's get rid of that. All right, so then it says a customer will be randomly selected from all 36 customers. What is the probability that the selected customer will have ordered a regular coffee without milk? Well, this is question 10 on the ACT. And if you know anything about the ACT, it now has 45 questions. Questions 1 through 10 are very, very easy. They're meant to be easy. If you're scoring in the mid to upper 20s, you are trying to be perfect on 1 through 10. These are simple problems. This one just requires us to find how many people order regular without milk, and it's 10. And we're choosing from all 36, right? It says a customer will be randomly selected from all 36. So the probability calculation is going to be a 36 on the bottom, and there are 10 that meet the criteria of regular coffee without milk. And so this should be 5/18 G. So let's see and test Chat GPT on this easy question if it can do the trick. So let's copy that, move that out of the way, and let's paste it in. There it is. We'll send it. And let's see how it does. All right, so step 1, identify what they're asking for. They want the probability that randomly selected customer ordered regular coffee without milk. So we need the count in the table where regular and without milk overlap. Read the correct cell. Without milk row, regular column, that entry is 10. Then they show you the formula. Probability is favorable over total. So what they mean is the number of favorable outcomes divided by the total number of possible outcomes. So there it is, 10 over 36, reduce it, 5/18, that matches G. All right, so there you go. So the nice thing about this is it will, ask you a follow-up question here, a quick check. And it says, and when you're ready, you want me to generate 10 practice problems like this. Easier to harder with answers. Let's say, yes, give me 5 ACT questions similar to this in increasing difficulty. Let's see what it does. Okay. There's question 1, very straightforward. Okay, and so it's giving us these different two-way tables. Let's go down to the very last one. I'll tell you what I like about this is that question 4 is what we call a conditional probability. So let's take a look. It says question 4 says a cafe tracks whether customers order hot or cold drinks and whether they ordered food or not. The question is, what is the probability that a randomly selected customer ordered a cold drink without food? I still say that I don't think that's a conditional because we're still choosing from the 50, and cold without food would be 14 out of 50. So let me ask it. Question 4, I have an answer of 7/25, 14. Is that right? So let's ask him. Your fraction is very close and the thing is mostly right. So apparently I did not get this right. I didn't give it what it was looking for. They asked for the probability the randomly selected customer ordered cold without food. Okay, cold row, no food, 14. 14 out of 50. So the probability should start as 14 out of 50. Oh yeah, so your answer of 7/25 is correct. But let's go back up and look at question 5. Yeah, okay, those aren't conditional. Let's ask it one more question here. Can you give us a conditional probability ACT problem. My tutor was telling me those were more challenging. So I'm just interacting as though it's my coach here on the ACT. Yeah, so this is going to be a conditional probability problem. It says a school survey recorded whether students are in honors classes and whether they participate in a club. Question: what is the probability that a randomly selected student is in honors given that the student participates in a club? Well, let me copy this so that I can draw on this. And I will show you the solution, and then we'll see if Chat GPT agrees with us. So when it says given that the student participates in a club, what that tells us is we are only going to consider those who are participating in a club. In other words, we are restricting our analysis to just these people because they're telling us that it's a person that's in a club. So my denominator will not be the total of 60. It's going to be my conditional total. Those, given that they're in a club, that would only be 24. Out of those 24, how many are in honors? It's 18. Okay. And so that we could then reduce that down to divide both by 2 and then divide those both by 3. So it looks like my probability is going to be 3/4. Let's ask ChatGPT if that is correct. Okay, so anyways, that was it. All right, students, that is all that I had. So what is the conclusion? What would I say? I don't know if you found that interesting or not, but I'm telling you, and my experience has been as I've tried ChatGPT on other SAT and ACT math questions, is it's good at over 80%. I would say maybe even at this point closer to 90% when I give it a problem, it correctly perceives the problem, reads the problem from my graphical image that I've pasted into it, and then it also gives me a very good detailed solution to it. When it comes to SAT style questions, I've asked Desmos, hey, could you show me how to do this in Desmos? And it does a pretty decent job of explaining how you could accomplish, a graphing solution using the Desmos graphing calculator. So I do recommend that even if you are working with a tutor on SAT and ACT, your tutor is giving you practice between sessions. And if you get stuck on a hard problem, there is nothing wrong at all with getting some help from Chat GPT so that you can maybe gain some understanding on that problem and see how to work it. Now, of course, you're not just going to be using Chat GPT so you can get right answers and show somebody that you got a right answer. You're doing this to see if it could teach you how to do the problem, or maybe at least teach you the first step that you could start working towards a solution. All right, so it can be used as a virtual tutor in many instances when you're trying to gain understanding on a difficult problem. All right, I'm going to check to see if any questions came in. Let's take a look. All right, so I don't have any questions that came in. Let's see if anything is in the chat for our live session tonight. I don't see any. All right, students, that's going to be it for tonight. Check back next week, because next week what I am going to be doing is I am going to be talking about how Desmos might be used on the ACT. And if you weren't here at the beginning, what I was saying at the beginning of this video was that on the ACT in February, there is a nationwide ACT test on February 14th on Saturday. In our area, we have a lot of students and their schools are going to be offering it during the school day on or around February 25th. And if you are taking the digital version of that test, then you will have access to the Desmos graphing calculator within their platform. If you're taking the paper version, you will not. You'll be just confined to using your own calculator. If you are taking the digital version, you could still bring your own calculator, but you will have access to Desmos just as you do on the SAT. So next week, what I will do is take a look at some questions, show you how I think maybe the most useful what the types of problems are that would make Desmos the most useful on the ACT. All right, everybody, have a great week ahead, and I look forward to seeing you next Sunday night. Bye, everybody.